Over the past decade, the world has seen enormous changes. Political, economic, financial, cultural. Nowhere has this been more evident than in Europe. The eastern countries finally opening their doors to the West. The demolition of the Berlin Wall. Events which have opened new horizons for the whole of Europe. The Channel Tunnel, for example, an impressive collaborative venture closing the final link in the European chain, will for historians of the future be seen as an important example of European cooperation. Aviation, too, plays an impressive role in building Europe, developing new technologies, helping countries to better understand each other by working together, proving in pooling their financial resources that European countries can afford to be at the leading edge, making their aerospace industries stronger, exporting all over the world. This was a milestone achieved by the unique combination of forces which became Airbus Industrie, a multinational venture started more than 20 years ago. A brilliant idea conceived in the 60s thanks to the wisdom of Europe-minded companies, which received the necessary timely political support. A real challenge. The original Airbus Industrie airliner, the A300B, first flew in October 1972. A short to medium-haul wide-bodied aircraft, it was the starting point of a real family of aeroplanes, and 2 decades later has proved to be an impressive commercial success, with a variety of sizes and ranges available to the world's airlines. Today, Airbus Industrie, a truly European consortium, is nearing the 2,000 order mark. Modern commercial aviation was really born after World War II, when new techniques developed during the hostilities were applied to civil aircraft. Airlines had difficulties coping with the demand, especially since most airliners in those days were still relatively slow and could not offer the levels of reliability we've come to expect in recent years. Traffic growth, however, was steady. Safety was rapidly improving, and the airlines were expanding their networks around the world. A new transportation industry was here to stay. In those days, most aircraft being put into service were rolling out of American factories. The European aircraft industry had been devastated by the war, and building real capabilities again was to take time. Today, commercial aviation is on a scale no one could have dreamed of in the late 40s. More than 1 billion passengers are carried each year on safe, comfortable aircraft, usually non-stop. Traffic will double again within the next 10 to 12 years, and thanks to Airbus Industrie, Europe now has a market share of some 30% of annual commercial aircraft sales. Europe really started to combine forces with a rather modest agreement on coal and steel. Then the Treaty of Rome was signed in 1957, and step by step the EEC took shape. 6 countries to begin with. More of them later on, 12 eventually. It's taken almost half a century to reach a real milestone, the single market of 1992. European aircraft manufacturers were at work long before that, accumulating experience and know-how. In July 1949, the British Comet 1 appeared as the world's first jet airliner. The slim, elegant French Caravelle was launched in the 50s and was widely exported, bringing new standards of comfort and performance. Produced by Sud Aviation, the Caravelle was to bring helpful experience to design offices, though it had to fight very strong American competition. In Great Britain, several types of jet airliner were produced too, such as the 111 designed by the British Aircraft Corporation and sold to many airlines around the world. And the Hawker-Siddeley Trident Trijet, ordered by the People's Republic of China too. However, thanks to their huge capabilities and a dominant position on the world market, American manufacturers were more than ever playing the leading role with the Boeing 727, for instance. 1,831 of them were produced. Long before that, the long-haul 707, launched in the late 50s, was a bestseller, as well as its direct competitor, the Douglas DC-8, and there was no European aircraft to compete with them on the long-range market. Then the idea of joining forces slowly came to fruition. Two countries, France and the United Kingdom, decided that by working together and sharing the investment, they could launch the first supersonic civil aircraft ever built. In November 1962, Sud Aviation and British Aircraft Corporation, together with Rolls-Royce and Snecma for the Olympus engine, launched the prestigious Concorde project. It took almost 7 years before the prototype 001 was ready for its maiden flight. Safely carrying 100 passengers at Mach 2, twice the speed of sound, was a tremendous challenge. The technical success of Concorde was to confirm that Europe was really ready for a comeback on the world market. The first petrol crisis of 1973, however, had suddenly made fuel extremely expensive, and the airlines wanted a different type of answer to their needs. The time was ripe, perhaps, for another collaborative venture, to answer market demand in another way. The industry was now understanding the merits of a European collaboration, and the experienced men were available. Men more than technology. Europe-minded men, such as Felix Kracht, a German who understood not only civil aircraft and airlines, but also how to organize a multinational venture. Roger Bettet, a brilliant engineer soon to be called the father of the A300. The influential Henri Ziegler, who'd been the boss of Air France, then Breguet, before being appointed chairman of Sud Aviation. France, Germany and Great Britain were each separately looking at plans for a large short to medium haul aircraft, preferably with 2 engines to keep the direct operating costs as low as possible, but still with a large capacity. The HBN 100 and the Galleon were some of the early designs, but investments were huge and cooperation was imposing itself. In February '71, Germany, France and Great Britain decided to join forces, and Airbus Industrie was formed and registered. The tasks were carefully divided. The wing was to be built in Chester by Hawker-Siddeley Aviation. The main fuselage sections in the Hamburg area by Deutsche Airbus. The cockpit and center section in Saint-Nazaire and Toulouse by Aerospatiale, and the other parts in Madrid by CASA. The first wind tunnel testing, the ingenious A300, is taking shape. Actually, Hawker-Siddeley Aviation designed and built the wing on company funds only, since the British government decided to pull out of the program. This is the impressive wooden engineering mock-up of the wing, a key element of the A300B concept. The Airbus A300B was to be a twin-engined, twin-aisled wide-body jet, which was a revolutionary concept in the early 70s. The Germans produced a full-size fuselage mock-up to help organize the cabin in the most efficient way and show the airlines the sort of comfort they'll be able to offer if they decide to place orders. Much care was also devoted to the cockpit. Long before the aircraft flies for the first time, the quality of its design is confirmed. The windscreen, for instance, has to resist a bird strike during takeoff or landing, a situation which could be reproduced on the ground by firing a bird simulating mass with the bird cannon. Fatigue tests on the materials to be used are carried out in Toulouse. At first, the Rolls-Royce RB211 was planned to equip the A300, but Rolls-Royce sold the engine to Lockheed for its new TriStar, and they lost interest in the Airbus program. Airbus Industrie eventually chose the American General Electric CF6 engine, which offers high thrust and very low specific fuel consumption. To save time and make sure that the CF6 fits European requirements perfectly, it's tested in flight on a modified B-52 bomber. In Cincinnati, Ohio, General Electric gets ready with a large fan engine. Hard ground tests are proceeding, including heavy icing conditions carefully reproduced on a special test bench. The British government has decided that the United Kingdom should not become a full member of the consortium, fearing another financial disaster after the Concorde project. However, HSA has decided to remain as close as it can to the European program on its own funds and at its own risk. And the company, later to be part of British Aerospace, works hard on the wings, preparing for series production with digitally controlled machine tools and new riveting installations. The wing itself is constructed in a vertical jig, whereas the wing's leading and trailing edges are constructed separately. German industry, mainly represented by MBB, takes care of the fuselage sections. Airbus Industrie is the first collaborative venture organized on such a large scale, and an important milestone also for Germany. For the first time, with the exception of the French-British Concorde, a European airliner is to be built across borders, regardless of distance, different languages, methods and habits. Every piece will be ready on time. The weight will remain within the design limits or be even lower. However, bringing in the various sub-assemblies is still a difficult problem. The decision is then made to carry sub-assemblies to Toulouse by air, using the enormous Super Guppy, a flying truck with a cross-section large enough to take pieces of the A300B fuselage on board. Several of them will be put into service, but can't be ready in time for the first prototype. To make sure that no time is wasted, pieces of the first prototype have then to be taken to southern France by road. A rather difficult task, because some roads are very narrow and the trucks have to wend their way through towns and villages. Telephone lines have to be removed. Branches have to be cut down. People watching these unusual trucks don't yet know that a major European challenge is about to take shape in front of their very eyes. Blagnac Airport, Toulouse, the end of the journey. This is where the A300 will be assembled and where it will make its maiden flight. Thanks to the light air traffic and the good meteorological conditions all the year round, this is the ideal place for such an important event. Final assembly of the Airbus A300B No. 1 can now start. Coming in on schedule from Germany, the UK and Spain, and from other factories in France, pieces fit together perfectly, as if they'd been built by one single company. The hydraulics are being installed. The wheels have not been installed yet, but the landing gear has already been tested, as well as all the moving parts of the wings, flaps, ailerons, spoilers and slats. By the time aircraft No. 1 is nearing completion, the very first orders have been signed by Air France and the Spanish flag carrier Iberia. The first really European airliner deserves a large rollout ceremony. Guests from many countries are given the opportunity to watch the supersonic Concorde first, and eventually the A300B. A great day for Europe, although the new aircraft still has to find its way in a very competitive market. While the A300B is being prepared for its maiden flight, ground tests are proceeding. The fuselage is filled with polystyrene, reducing the volume and so making pressurization tests less dangerous. Fatigue tests on the airframe. Methods used are very up-to-date and rely extensively on electronic equipment. The first flight simulator is already available. There will be no surprises for the Airbus flight crew when it takes to the air for the first time.
In view to start the measurement of the longitudinal static stability.
October 28, 1972. Thousands of workers have been waiting with pride and anxiety for this day. Bernard Ziegler in the left seat is in command for the very first takeoff, which has been delayed several times by unusually bad weather conditions. Engines running. Slowly, with extreme care, the crew follows the checklist instructions and leaves the parking place to proceed to Toulouse-Blagnac's main runway. Europe takes to the air. Less than 2 years after the Airbus Industry consortium was officially created, its first airliner flies, and flies perfectly. Landing gear is still down. The test crew makes sure everything on board is in good working order. Landing gear up. A first glimpse into the cockpit. The test crew look happy. Cleared for landing. Now it's time to celebrate a milestone. The assembly line starts to get busy. The dream has become a reality. A smooth multinational organization, partners understanding each other perfectly, a certified product and a real potential market. Now it's up to salesmen. A good aircraft appearing at the right time is clearly not enough. Airbus Industrie, a groupement d'intérêt économique, an efficient legal formula for the purpose, sounds odd overseas. Airlines have to be convinced that Airbus Industrie is to stay on the market, can really work, deliver on time, and offer perfect product support, even to customers based on the other side of the world. A very difficult task, another challenge. The very first orders had been signed by two flag carriers of partner countries, Air France for France and Lufthansa for Germany. Of course, observers said they had no choice. Not true, of course, and credibility could be established only after airlines from other countries had made up their mind and chosen the A300 over the American competition. The first aircraft embarked on a long promotional tour to South and North America, took airline executives on trial flights, was shown at air shows. In the United States, there was keen interest for real, but the time wasn't yet right for any major carrier to sign a firm order. In 1974, Airbus Industrie got its first overseas order, signed by Korean Airlines. A good opportunity to demonstrate the efficiency of the after-sales service a long way from Toulouse. Other contracts were then signed with South African Airways, the Dutch charter airline Transavia, and Air Inter, the French domestic airline. But success was slow in coming, even though the A300 was performing extremely well, including when demonstrated in very hot temperatures or at high-altitude airports. Slowly but surely, the A300 was turning into a success. The different partners kept up with the pace and delivered the sub-assemblies on time. The system worked like clockwork, but still the Americans weren't convinced. Borman, the former NASA astronaut who'd been appointed chief executive of Eastern Airlines, was the first in the United States to be convinced that the A300 could be the wise choice for his airline. He first decided to buy 23 units and took options on a further 9. A real breakthrough. For the first time in history, a European airliner was making its way to the United States. At that time, the environmental issue was beginning to make headlines. The new generation CF6 turbofan, chosen for its fuel efficiency, was to become a real asset. And the numbers were there to confirm that the A300 was a good neighbor, or, to use an advertising slogan, a whispering giant. The first generation jets, such as this 707, were now considered to be noisy. The comparison with the A300 was impressive. In the mid-70s, the airlines were beginning to feel the need for a new kind of aircraft, quiet, cheap to operate, smaller, but still in the wide-body category. Right back in the A300 design days in 1970, the consortium's idea was not to stick to a one-product organization, but to start a family of airliners. In 1978, work started on the 200-seat A310. This wasn't just a shorter A300, but a totally different aircraft. Airbus offered the airlines the choice between two different engines, the improved CF680 or this Pratt & Whitney JT9D, a quiet, highly efficient engine. The hypercritical wing of the A310 was a completely new design by British Aerospace at Hatfield. Extensive wind tunnel testing confirmed its efficiency. In the meantime, the United Kingdom had decided to rejoin Airbus Industrie as a full member with a 20% stake. France and Germany kept 37.9% each, Spain 4.2%. A split which remains to this day. A revolutionary forward-facing crew cockpit, or FFCC, using flight management systems, CRTs, cathodic ray tubes, and push-button technology, reducing crew workload. Various parts of the A310, such as the rudder, were to be built with new advanced materials, allowing weight to be considerably reduced. Belgium too decided to join the renewed European as associate member, the status also previously chosen by the Netherlands. Here at Sonaca, Belgian employees are constructing the slats. The launching airlines were Swissair and Lufthansa. The first A310 was built by the partners using the experience accumulated over previous years, thanks to the A300. Surface transport was still used for the short distances, while the Super Guppy fleet was kept very busy flying sub-assemblies between the various production sites around Europe. Here in Germany, a fuselage section is loaded, ready for delivery to the Toulouse assembly hall. Sub-assemblies started arriving at Toulouse from all over Europe, and final assembly was begun. In late 1981, the first A310 had been virtually completed. The rudder and the engines here are still to be installed. The first flight in April 1982. The first A310 was painted in a double colour scheme, Swiss Air on the right, Lufthansa on the left. These two airlines were the first to put the 310 into commercial service. The A310 was an almost immediate commercial success. The name of Airbus had been established. In the summer of 1983, while A300 sales totaled nearly 250, A310 orders were already more than 100. In various parts of the world, Air France, Austrian, British Caledonian, KLM, Lufthansa, Martinair, Sabena and Swiss Air in Europe. And Cyprus Airways, Kuwait Airways, Libyan Arab Airlines, Middle East Airlines, Nigeria Airways, Singapore Airlines, VASP of Brazil and Ward Air in Canada. Soon after the A310 became a reality as well as a commercial success, Airbus Industrie started looking at another growing segment of the market, the 150-seat short to medium-haul aircraft, to replace aging fleet in that category the world over. Designation of the newcomer, the A320. A new step forward. The A320 is the first aircraft ever to be entirely computer designed, making extensive use of advanced technologies, more composites for a lighter airframe, and fly-by-wire controls with side mini-sticks for the pilots. The A320 will be the first commercial jet to be equipped with this new technology, and extensive testing has to be undertaken. This A300 is a flying test bed, fitted with A320 systems and enabling Airbus to gain considerable experience, long before the first A320 is completed. Toulouse, spring '86. The first A320, without a doubt the most advanced jetliner in the world, is taking shape. The engines chosen are the French-American Snecma General Electric CFM56 turbofan and International Aero Engines V2500. On the 10th of October '86, the A320 is freed of staging and platforms, and for the first time its undercarriage touches the ground. Here it comes, still unpainted on its way to structural testing prior to the first flight. The aircraft is fitted with mass simulating ground test engines, which are to be changed in December for the final CFM56s. The 22nd of February 1987. The third member of Airbus Industrie's family lines up for its maiden flight after having been delayed by one day due to poor weather. The A320 is ready for a one-year certification program, while orders have accumulated to the 600 mark, the highest figure ever reached by a new airliner, long before it's ready for commercial service. The A320 comes into land after having completed its maiden flight without any major problems. Information obtained during test flights is analysed in real time, a way of working made possible by the extensive use of new technology, shortening the time needed for certification by several months. The comprehensive certification program involves extreme situations, such as landing on a suddenly flooded runway with no damage to the engines. And very cold weather tests. In northern Sweden, this aircraft has been left outside for a whole night at minus 20 degrees Celsius. The following morning, all the systems must be working perfectly. More tests. Minimum takeoff speed. High incidence with the rear fuselage rubbing against the runway. The undercarriage is exposed to extreme stresses. The windscreen is tested on bird strike resistance, and the engines have to resist damage by foreign objects. Crew workload is tested too. New technologies involve different behaviour. Of course, all testing is done under close surveillance by the certification authorities. And eventually, the magic piece of paper. The official certification granted by the aviation authorities on the 26th of February 1988. From the outside, the A320 appears to be a regular, sleek, medium-sized airliner. You have to sit in the cockpit to discover the real meaning of new technology, such as the revolutionary flight control system.
The characteristics of the flight control system in the A320 are that if the stick is free, as it is at the moment with the autopilot disengaged, the airplane will maintain 1G flight in pitch, corrected for bank angle and pitch attitude, and 0 roll rate. And it is this which gives the airplane its nice characteristics of flight path stability in the short term. So what we'll do now, in fact, is to come to a typical approach situation, and we'll assume in a moment that the windscreen is full of an Aztec or a mountain or something, and we have to make an avoidance maneuver. So 3, 2, 1, go. Full thrust, full back stick, holding it. You see how rapidly the pitch attitude increased to 25 degrees. We roll to the bank angle that we want, but the speed and the angle of attack have remained totally in a safe range. And the airplane has, in fact, incredible maneuverability in this region, which is, as you saw, very close to the storm.
June 1988. The first Air France A320 with Prime Minister Jacques Chirac and other VIPs on board flies low over Paris and the Champs-Élysées, and soon after enters commercial service. The rate of production is rapidly building up. Eventually, after a few months, it reaches more than 10 aircraft per month, a level to be maintained for years thanks to the continuation of orders from airlines around the world. The long customer list includes a wide range of airlines. Lufthansa's 320s serve a comprehensive intra-European network. The A320 is designed to offer very short turnaround times, great dispatch reliability combined with low operating costs. For short to medium haul aircraft, these are factors of major importance. Air flies the 320 on short domestic routes where it has to compete with the National Railways network. Ansett of Australia was also an early customer. British Airways never placed an order for an Airbus aircraft. But when British Caledonian was taken over and merged into BA, its assets included a fleet of 10 320s. During the development of the A300, Airbus was considered to be the underdog. But the A320 is now the ultimate proof of the trend-setting role it's acquired. And still the Airbus family is growing. Using the built-in stretch capability of the A320, Airbus is developing the A321, offering total communality with the basic model. Using the same type of engines and the same cockpit, the A321 will be assembled in Hamburg, Germany. Some 20 years ago, after starting almost from scratch, Airbus Industry's partners, to cope with the demand, have extensively invested in new tooling and expanded factories, such as this impressive one, built by Aerospatiale in Toulouse. It's called Clément Ader, after the famous French aviation pioneer who invented the word avion. It's been especially designed for the new large A330 and A340 models. The traditional assembly line is replaced there by modular assembly for more efficiency and lower production costs. The aircraft no longer need to be moved along the line while work is going on. The twin A330-A340 program is based on an original idea. One single airframe, the same wings and different lengths of fuselage are giving birth to a 4-engine, very long-haul aircraft on one side and a high-capacity, short to medium-range 2-engine aircraft on the other. This is the cabin mock-up with the luxurious first class. And here's the comfortable 6-abreast business class. And the 8-abreast economy class. Thanks to a range of 8,000 nautical miles, the A340 can serve the longest routes non-stop, and flying time can reach some 12 hours. The cabin crew can use an underfloor rest compartment, and the off-duty flight crew has a rest area close to the flight deck. Comfort on board is unique. Airlines can offer the latest available in-flight entertainment as well as a direct communication service. The flight deck is very similar to that of the A320. The system's philosophy is the same. It enables pilots to have type ratings for the A320, 330 and 340, which renders the flight crew more flexible and the operating costs less expensive. Wooden engineering mock-ups are built before the actual construction starts. These mock-ups are of great importance to study small details, such as cabling and piping, and they'll make series production easier and faster. Airbus Industry's family of airliners now covers all the airline's needs, from 150 to 440 passengers, and all ranges, from the shortest routes to the longest ones. From an industrial viewpoint, Airbus is both a large European organisation and a worldwide collaborative venture. In Chester, British Aerospace builds the wings for all types now in production. For the A330-340 programme, however, the final assembly of the wing is done by Deutsche Airbus in Germany. Deutsche Airbus, now part of Deutsche Aerospace, produces fuselages in Bremen and Hamburg, and is getting ready for the A321 final assembly line. In France, Aerospatiale is in charge of various sub-assemblies and is taking care of the cockpits and central sections as well as final assembly. Spain keeps busy too, and Airbus work is a growing part of CASA's workload. The high-tech composite parts in particular have become their specialty. Various Belgian companies under the leadership of Sonaca work together to produce parts of the wings, such as the slats. Also, these honeycomb structures are products of Bell Airbus. Canadair in Montreal has become an important subcontractor to Aerospatiale and British Aerospace. And so has the Australian aerospace industry. South Korea too is making Airbus parts. General Electric, Pratt & Whitney, CFM International, and soon Rolls-Royce for some A330s will deliver the engines. The first CFM 56 5C2s have already arrived at Clermont-Ade to equip the A340. The A330 will be fitted with CF6 80E1s, Pratt & Whitney 4000s, or Rolls-Royce Trent 700s. The Super Guppy fleet is still busy flying the sub-assemblies across Europe. The huge Soviet Antonov 124 is now used to carry sub-assemblies on the intercontinental routes, while trucks move the parts over the short distances. The A340 is the first European four-engine long-range airliner developed for the last quarter of a century. It will be followed 1 year later by its sister ship, the 330. Toulouse, the 8th of March 1991. Europe's first four-engine jetliner is about to see the light of day. This is the industrial rollout of the A340. The A340 is moved from structural assembly to systems integration and checkout bay. Another 6 months of hard work and testing will lead to the historic moment of the first flight. October 25th, 1991, an historic day for the European aeronautics industry. It's the first flight of the Airbus A340. The preparation work has been patient and minute in its detail. But these men are anxious nevertheless. Their names: Pierre Baud, who will be the flight commander; Nick Warner, test pilot; Gérard Guyot, development director; and two in-flight engineers, Jean-Marie Mathios and Jürgen Hammer.